Preview.
So what would happen if you took Kenshin Amora, kept him in the Edo era of Japan, but turned him into an alcoholic female? You get today's anime. Tsukikage Ran, Carried by the Wind, is a 13-episode anime series that aired back in the year 2000. It documents the misadventures of Ran and Meow in an episodic format, a setup that happens to be the perfect fit for the show, being that Ran is what they call a drifter. Just like Kenshin, she wanders aimlessly through her prefecture, embracing whatever situations come her way. The types of stories going on here are very mellow and lighthearted, and I think that helps this show differentiate itself from the other shows it would be compared to. Instead of a bunch of political corruption leading to bloodbaths or some dictator that needs to be humbled, you get stories like a war on sake in the town they find themselves in, or goofy stories about a chick out of Europe. They didn't get too deep for you with this one, and the show definitely benefited from that. The way Carried by the Wind plays out is sort of reminiscent of the first arc in Rurouni Kenshin, the Wandering Samurai arc, even though that arc does have a lot of the extra shit like politics and blood battles that I mentioned earlier. But they're similar in the sense of being lighthearted and giving you a display of what our protagonist's skills and wits truly are without going overboard. Just like Kenshin, Ran doesn't really need to cut somebody in half for you to know she isn't to be played with. She also carries the same aura of mystique about herself that we felt with Kenshin in the early episodes, where you crave any information you can get on her background. With Ran though, you really don't get much. This may be another situation where the anime is simply a snippet or trailer for the viewer to take their ass over to the source material if they want to really experience the story. But actually looking into it, I actually think Tsukikage Ran is an original anime adaptation. I don't think it actually had a manga. I couldn't find one. Or I found one that had like one volume, that came years later, but I digress. Ran was a show that came out at the most ideal time, because the year 2000 to me was a pretty solid year when it came to how shows were being animated. It wasn't quite sure if it's still the 90s, but then it's not sure if it's the 2000s yet, so you're still getting the traditional hand-drawn art style we all love, with a hint of a digital upgrade. Another show that came out in 2000 I could easily compare this to is Inuyasha. What a perfect example, seeing both shows take place in the Edo era and displays what Japan looked like prior to modern civilization as we know it. I think about how easily Ran could have dropped a year or two earlier and ended up looking like GTO. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I appreciate the upgrade that commenced at the turn of the century. In case you missed it, the show gets points for the art style and animation. I must say though, it has a good art style for what it is, but it does fall a bit on the bland side in terms of character design. A major thing to point out here, the choreography for the fights in this show is phenomenal, and both Ran and Meow are no joke. This plays into the reason why I compared the show to Rurouni Kenshin. It seems this show was an alternative for anime fans at that time, with anime heading into a phase where the mon craze was starting to boom, especially in North America, and eventually the medium would evolve into a shonen battle series, Haven. So Madhouse went with a lighthearted action comedy that was heavily inspired by Chanbara. Chanbara is a Japanese thing, more traditional and old school, basically meaning sword fighting movies, or it can be called samurai cinema. Hey guys, if you're into Kenshin or Samurai Champloo and want a more diluted version, you may like this one, but it's time for me to break out. So like the video, comment down below what y'all want to see next. Thanks for watching. Anime Back When.